Alright, this video is for Buick 455 owners. If you want to convert your V-belt style accessory drive system to Serpentine belt. There is no difference in terms of drag or efficiency gains by going to micro V-belt or Serpentine belt as it's known. I've actually measured this empirically, although I could do more experimentation. I'm not. The reason you do this is simplicity. Why? Because of the clearance, the way they offset the brackets and accessories from the engine makes it easier to clean up and redo wiring like I need to do. I like it. It's simple. It's easy. I enjoyed it. These are standard GM part numbers. When you look up this assembly, you'll notice in some images, especially if you Google it, it has in the mold a longer, lower aluminum piece with a bolt for securing. That is not this bracket. The subtlety here is I removed the idler pulley, and that's because of belt length. Because of my application here, this was built from an already customized setup for a Buick A-body. Buick A-body has more room above the engine between the hood. This is a 1970 Riviera. I have a lot less room between the top of the engine and the hood. What I had to do is build new plates that these brackets mount onto, both sides. So the plate mounts to the head, and then the bracket mounts to that plate. That plate is 3/4 inch aluminum. You can kind of see it back there. Both sides. So just match drill or measure your bolts on the head, or the bolt mounting on the head. Drill those holes, mount it. Recess those bolts as you need for these brackets to fit, and then mount the brackets. There are additional pictures on VA Buick on Serpentine belt setup information, so you can also reference that as well. So that's this setup. This specific compressor is from 1987 Buick Grand National. I don't recall the specific part number. I'd have to look it up. Be aware that these Serpentine belt, these compressors, they all look the same, but the manifold where the high and low pressure lines enter and exit can vary. So be aware of that. When you buy the compressor, look at the manifold. If you get it from the junkyard, if it still has the piece for the manifold or any kind of part number reference, look at those. Keep that in mind. The harmonic balancer is removed right now with the crank pulley and the crank pulley spacer. I had an issue not related to this kit at all. I've had an ongoing issue even with the V-belt where the harmonic balancer would work a little loose. Turned out to be the bolt. I got a new seal on the way, so that's why it's not mounted, but it does give me an opportunity to really show what you need. So, if you go to the crank pulley assembly, standard GM part number in the video description. When I bought this kit, somebody already match drilled the additional 3 holes. When you buy this crank pulley, it'll have 3 bolts that match perfectly. Somebody just went ahead and drilled the additional 3 bolt holes so that all 6 bolts can be used to mount to the harmonic balancer. The spacer is the next custom thing you would need to do. Go find a good machinist or come up with a solution yourself. 1 inch and 3/16. 1 inch and 3/16 is what this measures out to be. I'm sure there's a little fudge in there. I don't know if it really matters. So that's something that you would need to make this kit complete. Some people are electing to do the Serpentine belt setup without driving the water pump. They use an electric water pump and an electric fan, or drive the water pump but not the fan. It doesn't matter. You decide. But if you decide to use a 6-groove water pump pulley, this specific part number that I'm using is a Ford aftermarket part number. The part number will be in the description. Pretty simple, bolts right up. Be aware that some Buick 455s have different water pump lengths. You may need to shim differently. I think I did some shimming, but not a whole lot. This pulley, because of the routing and running the mechanical fan and water pump, was added. I did not add it, but you can easily add a bracket and copy this if you are not good with welding aluminum. Idler pulley is just a generic pulley, just Google one. Power steering pump, 2002 Tahoe. Why? The reservoir is angled because the way this bracket sits, and even though I had to angle it further for this 1970 Riviera, it fits it much better than the traditional reservoir that you would see on your V-belt setup, because you can get some of those same water pump assemblies that have the Serpentine style pulley. Don't worry. 2002 Tahoe. Buy it new. It's worth it. Alternator. 2002 Tahoe. Around 2007, they changed this alternator. It requires more wiring. Don't do it. 2002 Tahoe. Or find look up similar parts. I just had these parts. This bracket here is for my radiator hose, so you can figure out your routing however you need. I added this pulley again because of belt length. I want a standard off the shelf, be able to stop by a parts store and order a belt should it ever break or wear out. You can get custom length micro V Serpentine belts, but they are pricey and they are not off the shelf. You have to order them. Not worth it to me. Again, that's why I removed this idler pulley, and while I was at it and I needed a little bit more tension, I added this pulley. That's all there is to it. So the custom things that you will need to do: the head plates to mount the brackets, the standard GM brackets, 3/4 inch aluminum. I believe I bought one plate. It was 4 inches wide by 6 inches long. Believe it or not, I just used a chop saw to cut the plates and match drilled where I needed to match drill, and then figured out the orientation of the brackets. I do have the original layout for the A bodies, again because I bought this kit. It was a partial kit for an A body, but I do have those plates, the dimensions of those plates if you need them. Decide on your water pump pulley and your water pump and cooling. This specific pulley is a Ford aftermarket pulley, so that's custom, or you can figure out your own solution. Crank spacer is custom. Figure that out. Any additional pulleys, or however you want to route it, up to you. You don't need to spend $1,300 doing this work. If I hadn't bought the kit, which I spent roughly $300 or $400, and it wasn't complete, I'm sure I could do the whole thing for a couple $100 going to the junkyard, finding additional pulleys as I needed them, and getting these two brackets. You decide on the accessories if you want a brand new alternator, a brand new power steering pump, brand new compressor, or not. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's not that hard. Good luck.